Independent movie makers and big Hollywood studios started saying, hey, maybe these smaller films and these young filmmakers could work in the movie business. Martin Scorsese doesn't just love movies, he protects them like a special place. The films, there was also the start of TV in 1948 to 49. And the best time of year for over 50 years, he's been both a student and guardian of this art form. To play his hand, somehow the camera wasn't right. Yeah, maybe it was that. We gotten sometimes protecting means pointing out what puts it in danger. Here's what people don't get about Scorsese's hate. It's not mean. It's not about his ego or being jealous. When Scorsese hates a movie, he's sad about something that's gone. He's watching movies betray themselves. He's seeing the thing he gave his whole life to get ruined, made simpler, turned into something he doesn't recognize. These 7 films aren't just bad movies to him. They're warnings. They're examples of everything that can go wrong when filmmakers forget what they're supposed to do. When they pick big action over heart, when they choose money over beauty, when they ignore how smart their audience is just to get their cash. This list is important because Scorsese's hate teaches us things. Every film he doesn't like shows us something about what he thinks movies should be. The first John Ford Wayne film that I can remember watching on a big screen. And this was after seeing maybe a few of the few parts. His dislikes are like a map. They show us the edges of the cliff, the spots where art ends and products start. So, let's look at the 7 films that Martin Scorsese really hates, and more importantly, let's figure out why. 7. Movie 43, 2013. Movie 43 isn't just a bad, funny movie. It's like a crime happened. It's what happens when Hollywood stars decide to embarrass themselves for money, to use this very powerful tool, because we know film, the picture can be so strong, not only for good use, but also for bad use. Scorsese supposedly watched 20 minutes before he turned it off. He couldn't finish it. I do not start putting down the scarf here. Feel this 100% page. Well, at least that's what the guy, not because it was rude, but because it was mean to everyone in it. Here's the story that matters. A producer friend asked Scorsese what he thought after the film failed with critics. Scorsese said something scary. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen. Artists ruining themselves on camera. He wasn't talking about the rough jokes or the shocking parts. He was talking about respect, about actors with real skills, making themselves look bad for nothing. This film shows everything Scorsese worries about with modern Hollywood. The willingness to give up good standards for quick money, the complete giving up of caring about art. Movie 43 had famous stars doing sketches that weren't funny, weren't smart, weren't anything except trying too hard. It was a comedy without humanity, being shocking without a reason. What did Scorsese learn from this? A reminder that movies must lift people up even when they show dark stuff. Look at The Wolf of Wall Street. That film shows bad behavior, but it never forgets the human price. It makes you feel weird on purpose. Movie 43 just makes you feel weird. This is what happens when movies forget they owe something to the people who make them and watch them. It becomes a show of self-destruction. And that's not art. That's just sad. 6 Transformers movies. The Transformers films aren't movies to Scorsese. They're products. Why not make the film part of that experience? My worry is 2 worries, and that is, one is that, the filmmakers need the theaters. Their business plans wrapped in explosions and computer graphics. Michael Bay didn't make movies here. He made advertisements that lasted 2.5 hours. And Scorsese sees this as the future Hollywood wants, a future where art dies and computer programs win. Remember when Scorsese made those comments about Marvel films, how they're not movies but amusement parks? He was talking about Transformers too. These films show the complete factory making of stories. Every shot planned for most money, every explosion tested with groups, every character designed to sell toys. There's no room for human truth here, only big action. Here's what scares Scorsese about these films. They work. They make billions. They prove that audiences will accept anything loud enough and fast enough. And that success teaches studios a terrible lesson. Why pay for a quiet film when you can pay for a transformer? Why take chances when robots sell themselves? The comparison here is simple. These films are the company computer program made visible. They're what happens when movies become pure money-making. When storytelling bows to business owners, when directors become brand managers instead of artists. What Scorsese learned from watching this series succeed is darker than the films themselves. He learned that the fight for movies' soul might already be lost, that audiences might like noise more than detail, that the market might destroy what took 100 years to build. These aren't movies, they're the end of movies. 5. Crash, 2004. Crash won Best Picture in 2006. Scorsese, The Departed, won the next year, but he never forgot what Crash meant. We're trying to create something different, in a way from, but that fantasy, that fantasy is there. A film that mistakes being obvious for being deep, that confuses preaching for telling stories, that tells the audience exactly what to think about racism instead of letting them feel it. Paul Haggis made a movie with a message stamped on every scene. Characters don't act like real people, they act like symbols in a lesson play. Every meeting is designed to teach something, every coincidence planned to prove a point. Scorsese supposedly told a co-worker that Crash was a film school lecture pretending to be art. Here's what bothers Scorsese most. Crash won over Brokeback Mountain, a real piece of cinema lost to a sermon. And that win told Hollywood something dangerous, that obvious beats subtle, that message beats the story, that you don't need to trust how smart your audience is. The lessons Scorsese takes from Crash connect straight to silence. That film asks questions about faith without answering them. It trusts the audience to struggle with doubt. It refuses to preach. Crash does the opposite. It gives you all the answers in the first 20 minutes. Movies that tell you what to think have already failed. Real films ask questions. They create space for the audience to find meaning. Crash removes that space completely. This is a movie classroom. And Scorsese didn't spend 50 years making films to watch art become homework. 4. Gotti, 1996. This one is personal for Scorsese. He spent decades looking at the mob with Goodfellas, Casino, and The Irishman. My mind never really seen the film, because if I'd seen it then, it would have been something just stuck in my brains. He knows this world. He knows how to show it honestly. Then HBO made Gotti, and everything Scorsese worked for got ruined in 2 hours. The story goes that Scorsese talked about this film with Nicholas Pileggi after it showed. Pileggi wrote the books behind Goodfellas and Casino. They both saw the same problem right away. Gotti turned a criminal into a hero. It made romantic all the wrong parts. The violence became cool. The betrayals became good. The destruction became fancy. Everything Scorsese spent his career avoiding. Here's the difference. Goodfellas shows you the mob life and then shows you the cost, the fear, the violence, the certain fall. You're attracted, and then you're punished for being attracted. Gotti just gives you the attraction. It makes John Gotti look like a working-class hero fighting the system. This is how you tell a mob story wrong. You forget that these men destroyed lives. You forget the victims. You turn organized crime into a fairy tale. Scorsese's mob films are sad stories. Gotti is a tribute. That's not movies, that's public relations. What Scorsese learned here made stronger everything he believed, that showing violence needs responsibility, that looking at criminals means showing what happens after, that movies must never mistake charm for being good. They made Gotti a hero. Scorsese made Henry Hill a warning story. That's the difference between using people and art. 3. Armageddon, 1998. Scorsese supposedly said something harsh about Armageddon after watching it. I couldn't find the movie through the explosions. First 12 minutes of the film, incredibly tight, smart screenwriting. Armageddon belongs in the long tradition of disaster pictures. That sentence captures everything he hates about Michael Bay's way of making movies. Freedom. You fire that engine. If there's not a way, you find a way. The clock's ticking. Let's go. Let's fire that engine. Freedom. You got to let them. It's not filmmaking. It's attacking your eyes. It's the death of patience, packaged as entertainment. Here's what Armageddon means to Scorsese. The complete giving up of visual rules. Shots that last 2 seconds. Cuts that come before your brain can understand what you're seeing. A camera that never stops moving because staying still might let you think. Bay doesn't direct scenes. He explodes them. Every frame screaming for your attention. Every moment scared of silence. Scorsese built his career on the opposite idea. He understands that movies need breathing room, that a long take lets you live inside a moment. That stillness can be more powerful than explosions. Watch the tracking shot in Goodfellas. Watch the silence in Taxi Driver. That's a director who trusts his audience to feel without being hit. The comparison here is simple. Armageddon is what happens when editing becomes like having a seizure. When filmmakers mistake chaos for energy, when they're so scared of boring you that they attack you instead. Bay films don't have rhythm, they have fits. 2. Caligula, 1979. Caligula is the film that taught Scorsese where the line is. The line between looking at darkness and drowning in it. Like a documentary, but that the camera moves. Everything you see. It's all there in the script. We had to stage bits of action between shocking with purpose and shock for shock's sake. He supposedly walked out of a screening in the early 80s, not because he was offended, because he was bored. Because beneath all that adult content was absolutely nothing. Here's what people don't understand about this film. It had real talent involved. Malcolm McDowell, Helen Mirren, Gore Vidal wrote the original script. Then, Penthouse founder Bob Guccione took over and turned it into adult movies disguised as a historical epic. The sex and violence became the point instead of the story. Everything else disappeared into the too much. Scorsese knows how to film darkness. Taxi Driver looks at a disturbed mind without making it look good. Goodfellas shows brutal violence but never lets you forget the human cost. Casino shows moral decay with doctor-like precision. These films use darkness to light up truth. Caligula just rolls around in it. It mistakes graphic content for depth. It confuses the audience's discomfort with making art. The lesson here connects to everything Scorsese believes about movies. Shocking must serve a purpose. Shock must show something true. Violence on screen carries responsibility. You can't just throw bad stuff at the audience and call it art. You have to mean something. 1. The Birth of a Nation, 1915. This is the film Scorsese hates most, not because it's technically bad, because it's technically brilliant, helping something evil. D.W. Griffith invented the language of movies with this film. Then he used that language to make the Ku Klux Klan look good. That's the sad part. That's what haunts Scorsese. The proof that being a master without morals is just propaganda. There's a story from Scorsese's teaching days at NYU. He showed Birth of a Nation for his students. After it ended, nobody spoke, not because they were touched, because they were horrified at what movies could do in the wrong hands. Scorsese let the silence sit. Then he said something his students never forgot. This is why we have a responsibility. Movies are the most powerful art form ever created. This film proves it. Here's why this tops the list. Birth of a Nation isn't just racist, it's effective racism. It uses every tool Griffith created. Cross-cutting, close-ups, epic scale, emotional manipulation through editing. All of it was used like a weapon to make audiences cheer for white supremacy. That's movie's original sin, its power used to spread hatred. This film led directly to Killers of the Flower Moon decades later. Scorsese needed to tell a story about racism that did the opposite, that showed the victims, that refused to make villains heroic, that used movies' power to light up instead of corrupt. These 7 films share one truth. They give up movies' responsibility to light up the human condition. They choose big action over soul, money over beauty, easy answers over hard questions. Scorsese's hatred protects what he loves. It reminds us that movies matter too much to waste on emptiness. Which film would you add to this list? Let us know in the comments below and subscribe for more deep dives into movies' greatest minds.